Being a bard is all about charisma and creativity. People like Garrison Keillor, Jim Gaffigan, and Jonathan Coulton still entertain the world with this art. Weaving a good story takes practice. It's all about inspiration, energy, and enthusiasm. While I may not ever be as famous as those guys, I still hope you enjoy my D&D stories. Hello and welcome to another D&D Stories. I am your host, TheWriter, and this is the show where we sit here and I regale you with all the tabletop adventures and remember the time when something cool happened. So, Wicked Master ended in our last episode, so today we're moving on to Shadow of the Northern Plains, another campaign that I participated in with my college friends. This was some time ago, so please forgive any misinformation, embellishments, stuff that makes the story sound cooler. This was a long time ago, and all I've got is this little, part of a cue card worth of information that I could scrounge up. But it was very interesting, so we'll just let the story do the talking, shall we? This was a brand new DM. First time he had ever run something, and he told us all treasure hunting and travel. Those were the only two words we could get out of him as far as what the campaign would be about. So, it wasn't like, oh, demon hunting, inner city, stuff like that. Two very vague terms, treasure hunting and travel. So we ended up with a diverse group of 6 level 10 adventurers. Now, I can already hear some of you shaking your head. First time DM with 6 level 10 people, they're going to crush him. Yeah, kinda. So, we ended up with a fighter, a wizard, a vigilante, a lore master, which is basically a bard if a bard owned a library, a druid, and a cleric. I was playing the cleric, Parlesia, who was a cleric of travel and healing. Once again, I saw we had a whole bunch of people that could deal damage, and I was like, I was a buffer last time, I'll be a healer this time. And since our DM said travel, well, there are gods of travel, so I could basically have everybody join hands and teleport us several hundred miles in the meantime. So, yeah, we start our adventure in a large, bountiful city that is, several 100,000 strong. A pretty big, big place. A walled city with plenty of guards, and there's a festival going on. That there's a big parade happening. There's guys, juggling torches and scantily clad women waving from the tops of chariots and silk white horses prancing up and down the streets, and there, everybody who's anybody is leaning out of windows and standing on rooftops and standing on the sidewalks and stuff, watching the parade go by for this grand festival to celebrate the city's prosperity. So meanwhile, while everybody's back is turned and the city guard is busy keeping, the dense population kind of from starting drunken brawls or anything during this grand festival, Yuan-Ti sneak into the city's cathedral. Yuan-Ti are the snake people. Sometimes they can have the lower half of a snake, sometimes they have hooded heads like cobras, but they're like the cousin of the lizard folk, except they're meaner, and they usually come with more class levels. So, tough cookies, and quite a few of them, wander in, well, not wander in, but rather break in to the city while the guards' eyes are all turned towards the parade and the dense population. They break into the cathedral, and we see them, us being the 6 adventurers that we are. I guess we have a past history, but we didn't really work a lot on backgrounds. So, So I guess we are friends from previous adventures that are still together enjoying this parade in the city. And one of us is like, hey, look, Yuan-Ti. You know, we should go check it out, but we don't want to panic everybody, so we'll just go just the 6 of us. So we run down the alleyways chasing after these snake people that are all making their way to the big, like, Pelorian cathedral, the sun god, if you will. And it's a big stone structure, lots of stained glass windows and white marble and white stone and you know, rock gardens out in the front and paladins that anybody would be proud of. But we see them like slumped in the archway of the big double doors, so it looks like a bunch of them came in all at once and overran whoever was home right as they were getting there. So they mowed down the few guys that were there protecting the cathedral, and they're already inside. And we're like, holy crap, this got serious really quick. So we group together, we rally ourselves, and, you know, Yuan-Ti, we've got to go get him. And as we're approaching the cathedral, the DM is like, well, you guys are making a lot of noise, just like stamping after these guys. And we emerge into the courtyard like without stopping, which was our first mistake, because the courtyard between all these other buildings that leads up to the cathedral is teeming with Yuan-Ti. There's like 40 of these guys just like milling around, like killing beggars, killing, you know, anybody who was out doing landscaping or scrubbing or doing windows for the day. There's dead bodies all over the place. They're scrounging through people's food and just kind of guarding the front of the cathedral. And we charge out into the open and we stop like right next to them like, oh crap. Because there's 6 of us and 40 of them. And I know this DM well enough to know that these are not minions. You know, they don't have 1 hit point each. They're each gonna be relatively strong, because if you take a Yuan-Ti as a template, you can add class levels to them like regular players. And, you know, there were probably like warriors, sorcerers, not barbarians, but like fighters among them with 50 plus health and stuff like that. And there's 40 of these guys, and we're like, oh crap. You know, everybody stay close together. Don't let them separate us. You know, put Parlesia in the middle so I can do like my touch heals. Again, I didn't really build a character that could do a lot of fighting, but I was like, if you wander off on your own, it's your own damn fault, because I'm not going to suffer, you know, 30 attacks of opportunity trying to get to your stupid ass. So we're like, you're right. You know, we make a tight circle and make sure the healer and the lore master are in the middle. Because, again, the lore master is like a bard, except they get what are called lore master secrets, and they learn information they shouldn't know through all their books and stuff. And our lore master was a brand new D&D player, and she was really nice. And we tried to get her to play a fighter, but she chose lore master, so very RP heavy of a class. But so there we are, surrounded by Yuan-Ti, up in front of this great Pelorian cathedral. All the other paladins are dead. They must have got swarmed over entirely. And we can hear them doing stuff in the chapel from where we're standing. Like they've probably pushed all the pews aside. They might be doing like dark rituals or something, and they're trying to just like dirty this holy site. And we're like, okay, we've got to get in there before they're done doing whatever they're doing. Like, if they were going to come just wreck the city, they could have chosen any building. But they ran all the way in here to the cathedral. So something bad's about to go down. We got to stop them. And the DM's like, roll initiative. And we all roll. And then he rolls initiative for every single one of these Yuan-Ti. And it takes like 10 minutes. And he had like Microsoft Excel on his laptop next to him, like, roll initiative, type it in, roll initiative, type it in, and we start like snickering behind our hands, because I think he mixed up like big and epic. You know, like a Hydra or a big dragon is epic, and like big is just like an unwieldy fight of tons and tons of different characters. So we spent more time waiting our turn than we did actually fighting. But these Yuan-Ti have enough health to not die in 1 or 2 hits. So this battle takes like 3 hours of game times, like Yuan-Ti A, Yuan-Ti B, Yuan-Ti C. When you get up to having like huge amounts of enemies, you really should just roll for the team, or roll for all the Yuan-Ti, roll for all the Yuan-Ti half-bloods, roll for all the Yuan-Ti priests, you know, however they're separated. But we rolled individually, so it took a while. And we do scrape through. Again, there's 40 of these guys and 6 of us, and we're like, DM, please never do that again. That one fight took 3 hours. So we had like an aside with him after that. But basically this just battle breaks out. I'm surprised none of the city guards or any of the other paladins from the Pelorian Cathedral heard this. There's blood everywhere. There's severed limbs and, you know, serpent blood and human blood, you know, on all different surfaces all over this courtyard. We painted the place red, and we took quite a bit of damage for doing so. And finally, once the 40th one is gone, and we kind of check ourselves, and I do like my touch heals to make sure everyone's okay. And I'm not a paladin. I forget if clerics can actually change out their spells for healing. It's usually paladins that do that. I'm sure somebody will correct me, but I'm passing out heals as fast as I can because we got to get in there for whatever's going on. And we're like, we shoulder check the doors open, and we rush in there, and sure enough, they've thrown all the pews to one side in the main chapel area, and there's a giant magic circle, and they've got like a table pulled out from down on the dais, and they've got, you know, one of the priestesses of the Pelorian temple like stripped to the waist, and she's got like blood runes all over her and like nasty magic circles over her nipples, and they're like doing dark rites over her body, and there's this big buff guy with like a sacrificial dagger getting ready to sacrifice her to whatever dark god they're worshiping. It's like, I think they're trying to change it from holy ground to unholy ground, because if you do that to a holy site, you can like flip all of its properties, and it's bad. It's a very bad thing. And they've got like a 30-foot wide magic circle. They basically blitzkrieged the place because they had like 8 guys around this magic circle drawing magic runes and chanting "Yak-chu-rai, blah, 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 blah," and just it's this dark scene that's unfolding rather quickly, and we just got in the door. So the DM had like a timer waiting, you know, after the battle. We had like X amount of time to get in there if we wanted to save this woman from getting sacrificed to Quetzalcoatl or the Ouroboros or whoever the I'm sure the Yuan-Ti have an actual god, but we just called it Ouroboros because it's a snake god. And we're like, okay, we gotta fight past them all, and, you know, save the priestess, rah, and, you know, roll initiative again. And there's a dozen more Yuan-Ti plus this big guy. And you're like, okay, you know, we pick up the pew and we throw it over them like a log. We're throwing, you know, lightning bolts, you know, crossbow, and just another, just, you know, this holy site is going to be drenched with, you know, the blood of thine enemies and stuff like that. They're going to have to reconsecrate it when all this is over. You know, and like a stray paladin rushes in to try and take out the big guy, and he basically gets like grabbed by the face and thrown out the window. And our timer runs out pretty quickly. Like, we can't like get past all these guys without suffering like 9 attacks of opportunity because there's so many Yuan-Ti here. They came in force. Like, I don't know if they came up through the sewer, or if they made like a Yuan-Ti rope up the wall and into the city, but it was like there must have been roughly 100 of them breaking into the city to make this happen, and they must have freaking practiced, because damn if we didn't come in too little too late, because they left 40 people in the courtyard, you know, another dozen or so in the chapel, plus whoever's wandering the grounds. And we look up in time to see this priestess just get jabbed in the fucking heart. And I was like, okay, whatever magic he's doing, I was like, Zone of Silence! And I'm like, wait, no, Zone of Silence doesn't work as a thrown spell. It's only around me. I was thinking that I could, you can't cast magic if you can't move and you can't speak, so I figured I'd, throw Zone of Silence on him. That way it would end whatever spell he was doing. I wasn't close enough. So Zone of Silence only extends, I think, 5 feet from wherever you're standing, so I couldn't get close enough to stop him, and he just jabs this woman in the freaking heart, and she dies instantly, and all the dark runes and blood magic boils over and glows red, and she turns to ash and just goes psh, out over the dais. Oh my God! Or oh my Paylor! And our lore master is like, Spoonie, preserve us! Because she's a bard, so she worships a music god. Or a lore master, rather. So, is lore master a prestige class of bard? I think it is. Anyway, we were level 10, so she was a lore master. But she dies and turns to ash in front of us, and the big guy's like, our ritual is complete, and he runs the dagger over his cheek and then over his forehead, and he cuts his arm and starts hulking out. His muscles get huge, and he pulls this giant falchion out from on his back, and it's like, boss fight, go get him. And there's still Yuan-Ti running around the whole room, so he's one of many still, but he's twice as big as all the others. And our druid, who strangely enough is our tank in this group, runs in to do battle with him while the rest of us are trying to take out the Yuan-Tis and the Yuan-Ti half-bloods and the Yuan-Ti clerics that have basically destroyed this place at this point. Another couple of paladins run in, and again, they get grabbed by the face and just thrown out the fucking windows. I think at one point our wizard took a trip outside too, because that was his move. If he could get you and grapple you, he would grab you by the head and throw you out the window or throw you into somebody else. So you would take impact damage from being just thrown like a rag doll. And the party starts to kind of dissipate. And meanwhile, Parlesia, the healer is who do I stick with? Do I stick with the tank who's fighting the boss? Do I stick with the small clump of party members that are in melee? Do I run outside and try to save the wizard? How do I prioritize this? Because most of my healing spells, I have to basically go and grab your shoulders to make these heals happen. So I was just kind of panicking. Heal you, heal this guy. Oh wait, I took an attack of opportunity. Oh, I took 3 more attacks of opportunity. We get hammered just on sheer numbers. But we do manage to make it out and kill this guy and all of his minions. And the rest of them kind of got away. They threw open the manhole cover outside and they dashed down into the sewers. We know we're never going to see them again because it's such a sprawling city. But we get the main guy and we get the majority of the forces that came in. And just as he's drawing his dying breath, is Ouroboros will rise again, and he falls over dead. It's Ouroboros can go to hell, bah, bah. And we just kind of keep stabbing him until he stops moving. But once it all kind of calms down and the dust settles, we go and we grab the city guard, we go looking for any paladins that are left because, there's bodies everywhere, basically just carpeting the ground. This is like the Lord of the Rings when you go fight orcs. There's the couple of heroes and there's a couple of 100 dead orcs around because you can't beat the heroes. Well, we took some serious damage and there were a lot of dead paladins, and the priestess is dead and the clerics are impaled on the walls. There's dead lizard folk Yuan-Ti. There's dead Yuan-Ti everywhere. you know, it's just this scene of horrible carnage. It's like, we've got to hope that this gets cleaned up before the parade is over, because this horror is going to be a part of everybody's nightmares if we don't. So we bring in what city guard we can. You're like, this is what happened. And, you know, the priestess is ashes now. And the paladins of the cathedral are like, this is no longer a holy site of Pelor. You know, it's been, you know, dirtied by the forces of darkness. And they completed their ritual. You know, I can no longer feel the divine light of Pelor on the site of this holy ground. It is now unholy ground. You know, they've flipped the alignment of this piece of land. You know, the cathedral, it could just fall over at any second. It could come apart by the sheer negativity of the magic on this site. And we're like, holy crap. You know, we failed. You know, we went in and we got them, but we failed. We failed hard just from sheer numbers. So they knew that they were going to get chewed up, but they brought just enough people to do the job, which worried us the most. So we're like, okay, this is no good. We've got to tell somebody more important about this. It's like, if they broke into this giant city and took out, you know, a Pelorian cathedral, can you imagine that? That would be like kobolds taking over the White House. It just doesn't happen. It's an embarrassment. It's a horrifying scenario that you can't possibly comprehend. They broke into this giant city and turned a Pelorian cathedral into unholy ground. It's like, guys, you might want to keep an eye on your undercroft in case the dead bodies in there start getting up and wandering around. You know, there's a whole nother campaign that's going to happen under this cathedral. But for now, we immediately get word from the king who lives in this city. That's why it's such a big, grand city. It's a capital. And he goes, the king wants to see you. He has heard of your heroics. And wishes to congratulate and reward you, and etc., etc. And we're like, oh, well, good. If we can get a direct line to the king, maybe we can figure out what's going on around here. And, of course, the king only sees about as far as somebody who runs a city-state. He's concerned with the capital and not much else. So when we get there, you know, there's this big, like, long, meet the emperor, like, football field-sized throne room with columns and guards and curtains over all the windows that paint all the light crimson, and we go in, it's red and gold and thick shag carpets and stuff like that. And he goes, come in, come in. I have heard of your heroics, brave heroes. You know, Parlesia the cleric, and, you know, the druid, and lore master, and, you know, he couldn't say vigilante because vigilante is quote unquote illegal, and, you know, he learns all of our names, and he wants to hear, you know, about the battle that took place at the Pelorian Cathedral and what happened to the priestess, and, you know, are there any clerics left? Are there any paladins left? You know, they basically broke in and killed a nun, so it was pretty awful. But we did manage to put them on the run, so he was very pleased with us, and he gave us a bunch of money and some storyline XPs, and he says, well, you have clearly proven yourselves to be mighty heroes, having put away, you know, 60-ish Yuan-Ti all in one go. Maybe you could go on a quest for me. And he goes, a quest for you, your majesty? What do you mean? And he goes, well, no doubt you have heard of the shadow of the northern plains. And we all look at the lore master, and she goes, we have. And he goes, bardic knowledge, bardic knowledge. And she goes, oh yeah, I rolled bardic knowledge. And the DM's like, the shadow of the northern plains is a magical barrier that lies on the north side of this country, cutting everyone off from the greater portion of the country itself, having split the country in half. All the farmland is out there, all the rolling green hills of flowers and valuable herbs, the lush forests, etc. Basically, untapped potential for the entire country has just been cut off from the lower half of the country. And the barrier itself, like I said, is called the Shadow of the Northern Plains. And we go, why did that barrier get put up? And they said, well, long ago, there were a series of dragons who ruled the land with, fists of iron and unparalleled terror. But man rose up against them in greater and greater and greater numbers. And as we spread, as populations tend to do, we grew more powerful until they were no longer in seats of power. So, having taken the land for ourselves, the dragons decided that they were going to put up this barrier to keep us from spreading any further and challenging them, and then hid the keys to bringing the barrier down all around the kingdom and putting them into the hands of guardian dragons. And we all kind of leaned back and go, are we collecting elemental crystals from special elemental dragons? And the DM goes, yeah. And I go, oh man. So the cookie cutter campaign of go collect the 4 crystals kind of comes into focus. That we need to go fight 4 dragons to collect 4 elemental crystals to bring down the Shadow of the Northern Plains so that humans can grow and prosper northward, as we are destined to do. That the dragons can no longer keep us in check in our cage, because to the east and the west are mountains, and those belong to the dwarves, and to the south is a vast ocean, and no one's been able to get across it, and to the north is the Shadow of the Northern Plains. So the only way to go is up, or rather, northward on the map, up, whatever. But if we so gather these crystals and take them to the Shadow of the Northern Plains, the barrier will come down, and we will be able to send people out to claim more land and start more farms and etc., etc. We will grow and prosper as we once did, and we'll be able to take all the regulations off of birth rates and all these different other things. It's basically the population has grown too dense. We need more land. Go take down the force field. And being as powerful and as vicious in battle as we have proven ourselves to be against a group of so many Yuan-Ti, surely 4 dragons will be of no great challenge to you, great heroes. And we start scratching our chins a little and we go, dragons, okay. We are playing Dungeons and Dragons. Well, I love fighting dragons, and everybody else loves fighting dragons. The story is stupid, but we'll get to fight dragons, so let's go do it. So we're kind of making fun of the DM. But again, it's his first campaign. We're level 10 characters, which I don't think he's realized how powerful we are yet, but we'll get to that. And we go up and we go, we will take this quest, Your Highness. We will fight and slay these 4 dragons and gather up the 4 crystals, and we will bring down the Shadow of the Northern Plains, and, your kingdom will double in size. And he goes, yes, I will make each of you dukes and duchesses, and you'll have fiefdoms of your own, and he promises us money, power, women, men, whatever. All these different things, because basically it would be like the United States taking over Canada. The nation would double in size, though Canada's icy and not especially. I'm going to stop digging that hole now. The land beyond the Shadow of the Northern Plains is supposed to be lush and green and fertile and better for farms and fiefdoms. So we're like, okay, we'll do this, and we'll get all these rewards, and it'll be awesome, and we're going to be dragon slayers, and we're going to be national heroes, and we're going to have all these magic crystals that who knows what they do by themselves. So it sounds like a pretty good deal. And the king charges the 6 of us with this quest. And while we're still there in the palace, the lore master, who has some magics in and of herself, decides that she's going to read the king's mind to make sure he's on the up and up. And being that she's a 10th level character. She can do that. And she can do that with a fair amount of power behind her. So she's got a strong mind. And she's like, I'm going to read the king's mind and make sure he's doing this for all the reasons that he says he's going to, just in case. Because, you know, cough, cough, in the last campaign we got stabbed in the back at the last second, cough, cough. So the lore master, while the king is talking amongst us and is distracted, she, like, stands behind him, basically, to, like, read his thoughts, to get it, like, his surface thoughts. And we find out that the king is sending us to kill these 4 dragons and gather these elemental crystals for his own gain. Because, well, A, he's doubling the size of his country, but B, he's not really thinking of giving us all the rewards that were promised. So he's sending us out to do his dirty work, and history may rewrite the things that we do to make it look like he was the big hero. So we're already kind of suspicious, and she tries to delve deeper into his thoughts, but can't quite make it. Like, he starts scratching at his head like he knows something's up, and the lore master is like, I stop it, so he doesn't realize what I'm doing. So something's fishy here, and that mustache twisting is starting to look kind of weird. I mean, we haven't connected him with the Yuan-Ti or anything. That would be completely different, since, you know, he wants to be up there ruling his kingdom, not turning it into a barren wasteland. But, you know, just because you have 2 factions doesn't mean that either one of them is good. So he's a little bit land greedy, and he's willing to let us do the dirty work for him. In the meantime, however, the quest that he's given us isn't really a bad thing. So we're like, well, we could do with 4 less dragons, and we could do with, you know, doubling the size of the country, and think of all the adventures we could have out there on the northern plains. Well, the king might be a greedy bastard, but you know what? It'll be interesting for us. So we decide, all right, well, point us in the right direction, Mr. King. We're going to figure this out, and we're going to make sure it happens. And he's like, very well. I will send you towards the volcano in the western end of my kingdom. And yeah, when we look at the like the geographical map, and yes, this world's ring of fire passes over this kingdom, like on the western coast. And we're like, okay, so there's a volcano in this country along this group of mountains that is active and just so happens to house a fire dragon. And we're like, well, we're level 10, and there's only one of him, so, you know, surely we can take him down. And the DM's like, ha, 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 because DMs always do that. And we're like, okay, we're going to set off, you know, after we buy, like, rations and horses and all that good stuff, we're going to set out for the western volcano. And he's like, okay, so it's going to, and he pulls out like this grid map. He's like, every one of these squares on this grid is going to be a day of travel. And the volcano is here, and you're here, and he shows us all the major landmarks. We're like, okay, we're just going to go in a straight line. There's a road to get there, which was kind of weird, we thought at first. But we're like, oh, there's a fort. There's a fort there at the base of the mountains, in case the Dwarven Kingdom decides to declare war on us. I don't think that would have worked, having an above-ground fort for dwarves to attack, because that's not how they make war, but whatever. Perhaps the fort is there to watch the dragon, like if he leaves and sets a bunch of things on fire, they're like the fire department. They just run out and try to put out all the flames while he's out, you know? We're like, okay, so we're going to make some good time using a road instead of a path through the forest or something, right? And he's like, right, you can basically go about 30 miles a day with travel horses if you stop at taverns and exchange them. And we go, okay, so we're off. And he's like, okay, we're going to do fate checks, you know, percentiles, to see if you guys get attacked, if you find anything on the road, if there's good weather, bad weather, etc., etc. I gave him a what happens when you travel chart. It's basically a chart that's labeled 1 through 100, and you can just write 100 things on there. Like the bottom 10 might be monster attacks or bandits. The top 10 might be, oh, you find 10 gold in the road, things like that. So he would roll the percentile and tell us what happened each day. What I didn't know was that he labeled the first 30 entries as bandit attacks. And later on we were like, there was a 1 in 3 chance of getting attacked by bandits every day. My God, we should have brought the city guard with us, or like gone with a patrol, because sure enough, every other day that we were traveling to the volcano, we got attacked by bandits. And not by they weren't even as powerful as the Yuan-Ti. There was like barbarian bandits and archer bandit and rogue bandit, and those were like the 3 standard bandits that he had made up. And there's 3 of them, and there's 6 of us. In fact, I kind of pity the fools for trying to come at us. But if you give a bandit X number of levels of fighter or X number of levels of rogue, then yeah, they can turn into a formidable force. But man, they did nothing but slow us down the whole way there. It was like, who are these guys kidding? If there were 15 of them, we might worry. But we basically had to mow through bandits the whole way, almost like we were playing an early Final Fantasy game. Like every 4 steps you take, you get into a random battle. But we keep going through these guys over and over and over. And they drop some serious loot too. Like the barbarian bandits were dropping long swords +3, and the rogues were dropping like death powder and freaking what was it? Ever still rods? I forget what they're called. The rods that you pick up and you push the button and then you let go and they don't fall to the ground. They were dropping those. It's like, I think the DM just wanted to give us like cool loot and couldn't think of a way to really do it. But these bandits were carrying some exotic stuff on the way out, and it's like we ended up with this plethora of really strange exotic things to just play with the whole way. I think I got a whole ladder's worth of Everstill rods, and I'm sure they're called something else, but we called them Everstill rods because you could take one and press the button and then it wouldn't fall to the ground. You could climb up on it and then, do another one and then climb up on that. You could basically make a ladder that didn't fall. It was really cool. We ended up with like 12 or 13 of those, and we used them for ladders later on. But we come up on the fort, finally, and it's this big stone structure. It's got 3 towers and high walls, and it's got archers along the tops, and it's got guys doing military training and shooting at target dummies and stuff. But we notice that one of the towers is on fire when we get there. And we go, oh no, what new fuckery is this? There's Yuan-Ti everywhere. And we go, Yuan-Ti? More Yuan-Ti? We've had it up to here with Yuan-Ti. We've killed so many Yuan-Ti. And we go, how many Yuan-Ti are there? And he goes, there's like 20 running around this fortress with slings, and in those slings are alchemist fire. They're trying to like burn the roofs off of all the buildings on the inside of the fortress, while the archers are shooting down at them, and the knights are like crossing swords with them in the field of battle. And we go, oh my God, is there like a Yuan-Ti nation that we don't know about? These guys are popping up everywhere. We pull our swords and run down there to do battle with them some more. And thankfully this time it was not a 3-hour battle. But basically we were the reinforcements arriving at dawn, because they didn't expect to get sideswiped by a group of level 10, level 11 adventurers, jumping out of the or coming off of the road, riding them down on horses, throwing lightning bolts and shooting arrows and swinging our sabers as we went. We basically mowed them down and put them on the run. And finally, once all the Yuan-Ti have gone and we see guys like rushing buckets of water up onto the roofs, and our druid is like, I make it rain. Uh, and everybody's like, make it rain, make it rain. And we're like, I make it rain water. And we go, oh. So he makes like a 10-minute like deluge to put out all the fires on all the towers and all the windows and stuff. And we are all immediately soaked to the bone and just miserable. So once the rain stops and we kind of flag down one of the guys that's watching the gate, he's like, open the gate, our saviors have come. And the knight captain comes out and he shakes all of our hands. Thank you, thank you. There were so many Yuan-Ti when they started. It was coming down to the wire. You know, I have less than half the men I had when the attack started. You know, should the dragon decide to go out and terrorize the countryside, we would have nothing. Thankfully, he's not been seen in months, so we're standing ever vigilant, but the Yuan-Ti we were not expecting to be besieged out of nowhere in broad daylight. So thank you, heroes. Thank you for coming to our aid. And we're like, yeah, we're actually going up the volcano to take care of the dragon today. And he goes, do you have a death wish? And we go, no, we have class levels. And he's like, oh, well, if you are experienced adventurers, you know, I just saw you do all that fighting and you are soaked to the bone. I insist you stay for the night and regather your strength before you go up to challenge the dragon on the volcano. And we go, hey, free hospitality, we're in on it. And so we go in and we hand off our soaking clothes, and they give us like regular tunics and stuff to wear while all the squires are polishing our armor and sharpening our swords. And it's like, the first time you swing this sword, you'll get a +3 to your attack. Yes. And they feed us and they clothe us and they give us individual, basically like the lieutenant's rooms that, you know, a bunch of these guys are dead and they're not going to be using their rooms. So here, you guys have them. We each got our own room that we were going to stay in for the night. And in the morning, we would go to fight the dragon, and we're around basically the dinner table that evening, and we're like, gosh, you know, I wish we had more information. Like the Yuan-Ti, why Yuan-Ti? Why now? You know, what's causing them to suddenly boil out of the woodwork, out of the earth? Because the Yuan-Ti worship Ouroboros, you know, the snake god in the middle of the world that will one day, you know, awaken and eat the world and poop out a better one. I think that was basically what their lore was, that the DM said. And so we're like, why? Why now? What are they doing? Why attack a Pelorian cathedral in broad daylight, no less? Where are all these numbers coming from? Why are there so many? You know, because you think about kobold, you think about lizard folk, you think about Yuan-Ti, you know, they're kind of like your standard fare enemies. They're like orcs, you know. You don't think about them too much because there's never enough of them to be a threat. Oh, now there's enough to be a threat. So when 100 of them rush into a major city and flip the alignment on the Pelorian Cathedral's land, and then now there's more attacking this fort, just burning it to the fucking ground, or at least trying to, something's going on. It's like we're not making the connection. It's like, well, I guess our quest is twofold, friends. You know, we have to gather these 4 crystals, and we need to figure out what the Yuan-Ti are up to, because randomly attacking cathedrals and forts doesn't make a lot of sense. So we have dinner with the knight captains. You know, the squires look up to us like superheroes. Those that are left alive, we raise goblets to those who have fallen. We help them gather the dead and recover whatever gear we can. We help stoke the fires and stuff. And they treat us as honored guests because we basically rode down the guys that were burning their houses or their roofs down. And we break for the night, just kind of wondering why the world is the way it is so suddenly. And our lore master, she goes and Parlesia the cleric, has to go and pray and think up all the spells that she wants. And the lore master is kind of the same. She prays to Spoony, the god of music, and she's like, Spoony, I wish I knew the story behind all this. And she's looking through all her books at her Yuan-Ti stuff, any lore she can get about the Ouroboros. Is like, basically, like I said, a lore master is a bard that owns a library, and she carries just books and books and books on her back. And that is like, she's got a back, a spine made of steel, because she can carry so much stuff on her back. She's probably got a higher strength than she does charisma. So carrying all these books around is just strength training for her at this point. And while she's like looking through her books and praying to Spoony at the same time, doing her spells, the night grows long, the shadows grow long, the candles grow short while she's, staying up late, and the full moon shines down as the clouds part, and she's just staying up studying, trying to figure this out. It's like, do the Yuan-Ti have anything to do with the dragons? What is the nature of these 4 crystals? What is the nature of the shadow of the northern plains? Do you die if you touch it, or is it just a force field? Trying to get any details she can. And as the clouds part, who should come down from on high? Can't you see? He's the man, let me hear the applause. He is more than a man. I'm a shining golden god. Spoony, the god of music, comes down from on high to sit in our lore master's window. Lute in hand, with one leg folded over the other. And he goes, I have heard your prayers, lore master. It's like strumming his lute as he goes. And I have understood your plight. You are in a complex situation, a very delicate situation that will change the face of the world as you know it. And she's like, Spoony, the god, she's like upon her knees, was like in the prayer position, like her god came down to talk to her. It's that important. She's like, Spoony, the god of music and rock. And he goes, yes, listen well to my words. And he puts his hands like gently on her shoulder. It's like, the Yuan-Ti are the greatest of your worries, and spearheading them is none other than the king. And she goes, the king? Is he a Yuan-Ti in disguise? And he goes, no. But he has been promised great power should the Yuan-Ti succeed. And she goes, what are they doing? Please tell me. And he goes, the Yuan-Ti are traveling to Nexus sites. Basically, sites of great magical power. Pelorian cathedrals, well-placed druid circles, forts that have stood for hundreds of years. Basically magical hotspots. And they are performing these grim and grisly rituals at each one, flipping their alignments from good to evil. And should they succeed in each and every one of their targets, the chains around Ouroboros itself will come undone, and the world will be no more. And she goes, oh my God, or oh my Spoony. It's like, how many of these sites are there? And he goes, there are dozens of them. But with no one actively stopping them, it doesn't matter how many or how few there are. If they can break into the capital and still get away with it, even with heroes like yourself defending the land, they will eventually succeed if you don't stand up and stop them directly. And she goes, Spoony, but there's so many of them. There were 70 in that courtyard. We are but 6. And even we told the king, and if the king is at the front of this, then it's not going to matter. He will not raise his armies against his own allies. If the end of the world happens and they promise him a place of power, who can we even trust? And Spoony goes, you must trust in each other, and you must slay these dragons and take the crystals for yourselves. And once you've gathered them all and brought down the shadow of the northern plains, you will know what to do. And she goes, Spoonie, this information, this is everything. This changes everything. If the Yuan-Ti, we could run around killing Yuan-Ti for weeks, but if there are so many of them, it almost doesn't matter. We must hurry and gather the crystals and confront the king before all of these sites get flipped from good to evil, because if he's a part of this plan, then he would know how to stop it. And Spoonie kind of nods and goes, yes, you're right. I can only wish you good luck, Lore Master, and I cannot interfere directly. And she goes, thank you, Spoonie. Thank you for letting me know all of this so we know what we're doing when we set out on this arduous quest. Not even the same quest the king gave us. It's so... She's stressing out at this point. And Spoonie puts an arm around her waist, and you can guess what's going to happen next. And he goes, be calm, dear woman. Be calm. He's like, how can I even sleep? I'll help you sleep. And the lore master, she starts like blushing and kind of grinning because she knows what's about to happen. So she spends the night in bed with a god. And it's like the guys that are out on the wall just hear her shrieking in ecstasy while Spoonie has his way with this lore master. None of the other party members know anything about this. Parlesia's asleep. The druid is gone doing his own spells. The vigilante's like brooding on one of the towers. They have no idea that the lore master's getting railed by a god in her own room. So while she's taking it doggy style from Spoonie, the rest of us are preparing, like the next morning. The rest of us are preparing for a dragon fight. And if you know anything about fighting dragons, 80–90% of the fight is preparations. Like, if you can trap it inside in a cave, that's good. If you can figure out what element it is, like lightning, fire, etc., you can buy gear or get, magic rings or amulets to protect from its breath weapon. Do you want to carry something that resists acid, or do you want a shield that can repel fire, etc., etc.? And we ask around, and we know it's a fire dragon. It's red. So we've got to go up this place, and of course our lore keeper sleeps like a rock, and Spoonie's gone by the next morning, and she has no proof that he was ever there, save her words. And of course we believe her, because it sounds exactly like something Spoonie would do. And the DM is so pleased with himself, you wouldn't believe. But, so I guess Shadow of the Northern Plains is in the same continuity as Wicked Master, because we pulled Spoonie as a god after he became a god. Oh well. Anyway, so we prepare for a while, and preparing for fire resistance isn't especially hard, because we have a wizard with us who has elemental protection spells. So it's like, you can take 30 fire damage before you take any actual damage. It's like, you're shielded from 30 fire damage. You're shielded from 30 fire damage. Stuff like that. And we got rings, we got amulets, we've got different stuff just from pooling our resources, from hitting the fort's armory. There's a town nearby we buy stuff from, etc., etc. And we finally come to the foot of this volcano, and we're like, yes, the time has come. The first dragon awaits. And we march up that fucking volcano, and we can hear it rumbling, and we can see the smoke coming out. It's like, it's not erupting right now, but it could any day. So there's already trenches to send the lava to one side rather than down onto the fort or down into the nearest town or into any dwarven tunnels. It's clearly been worked over what they can under the nose of this dragon. And we get to the very top, and sure enough, standing in the crater, just waiting for us like a boss character would, is an adult red dragon. And of course, on his chest, just like emblazoned into his scales as a giant red gem. And it's like, that's it. That's the That's the key of fire, the gem of fire, whatever you want to call it. And it's like, see if we can't get a free shot on him before we open this up. It's like, we're not even going to talk to the guy because he's a fucking dragon. And if he decides to spray fire at us for 60 fire damage every turn, or every 4 turns, or whatever it is, we can't give him the benefit of the doubt. So while he's guarding this crystal, he's the enemy. We need that crystal. We gotta kill him. So we arrange ourselves like in a horseshoe shape so he can't like fire breath all of us at the same time. And we descend on this guy. Like, this is the part of the story where the DM realized how strong 6 level 10 characters can be. Like, even our lore master brought a wand with her to do tremendous damage, just like all at once. Everybody go! Bah! You know, arrow, lightning bolt, you know, sonic scream, you know, I summon a celestial eagle. That was our druid. He was the Pokemon master, even though he was our tank, always summoning weird shit. You know, the vigilante is like, you know, do the extra critical shot, you know, the fighter's going and swinging his saber back and forth. And a 10th level fighter, you can imagine how much damage. And I'm like, you know, imbuing weapons with holy damage so that more of it'll get through. And we freaking crush this guy. Like, this guy didn't have a chance. And like I said, the DM didn't understand how powerful 6 level 10 characters are. It took us like 4 rounds. We basically jumped the guy and just wrecked his shit. But having slain the red dragon that was terrorizing the countryside, you know, we take one of our swords and we just pry that crystal out and we hold it up. We're like, yes, the first crystal is ours. We must, and the dragon is dead. We must inform those people down in the fort that they no longer have to stand vigil for this horrible beast. And we like saw off one of its horns as a trophy, and we take it down to them. And we're like, wow, you guys are, you know, epic, you know, legendary heroes. And it's like, we must go up and claim the body before the dwarves do, and we'll make, you know, suits of armor out of dragon scales, and we will stand vigil to the volcano to protect the townsfolk, to watch for any dwarven naysayers, and we will be the Order of the Red Dragon, thanks to the lot of you. So this new, you know, this new order of knights springs up, and they're going to use the scales of this dragon to forge new sets of armor out of to protect against the volcano. So it's like, fire resist gear, yeah! And they give, I think it was our fighter. Our fighter ended up with his own set of red dragon armor, and he was so happy. So he had like 50 fire resist, because it's like helmet, chest piece, pants, gauntlets, etc., etc. And even if all of them only had 10 fire resist on it, it'd still be a ton of fucking fire resist. So the first dragon's down, we got the first crystal, and we turn our sights towards the next goal, and we'll learn more about that next time. So I'm gonna split this campaign into several parts once again. So, you know, 1 dragon down, 3 to go, then the Yuan-Ti and the king. So I hope you guys will join me next time for more Shadow of the Northern Plains on D&D Stories. Keep gaming.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like button for me. If you want to keep up with channel updates, check me out on Facebook. And if you're feeling especially generous, be sure to visit my Patreon. Keep gaming!